On this week's episode, we talk about our big siblings.
We discuss what it's like to have siblings without a disability and talk about our favorite memories with them.
So stick around.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rare with Flair,
The podcast where two 20-somethings with the same rare disease are living their best lives. I'm your host, Cassandra.
And I'm your host, Casey.
You guys, I wanted to call attention to something. Because, first of all, on last 2 weeks episode, we asked you guys to please, and we still stand by this request, please give us ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. We kind of get into why that's so important, but podcasts are really hard to promote. And I jokingly gave a little template for people to post a very quick review. And I am happy to say that a reviewer by the username of Mac and Cheese gave us the exact template.
Shout out to Mac and Cheese. You came through for us. I was crying laughing. I texted Cassandra immediately that you had used the template she wrote to write us a review, and we can't thank you enough.
Thank you,
we
Mac
will
and
say
Cheese.
Though, we think Mac and Cheese is gonna be the one and only, hopefully, because we think if everyone used that template to write a review, it would look very spammy, like
we got a bot to write a bunch of reviews.
Yeah, exactly. So, if you want to leave a review in the future, you know, maybe come up with your own words, but we want to thank Mac and Cheese for giving us a laugh for using the exact template. So if you're listening.
So if you want to give a review, you should head on over to view Mac and Cheese's review and maybe take some inspo.
Take some notes from our past reviewers. We would love to see it. Also, we need to address a little something. We addressed it on Instagram, but we have to laugh and address the fact that, 2 weeks ago, our last episode that we released about college, which go listen to it if you haven't, plug.
Nice.
We basically, a recording of just Cassandra's voice went out into the universe, and I wasn't there. I think a podcast with just Cass's voice would be actually a beautiful thing to listen to. Like,
thank you, my
you
friend.
You could fill an hour. You could easily fill an hour with just your lovely
I
voice.
have a lot of random things to say.
A lot of things to say. But unfortunately, it did not make any sense because it was just Cass talking to a blank wall, and my voice was not there. But we fixed it, but we're just letting you know that happened, so maybe you can get a laugh out of it, and or if you heard it and you were very confused, we did fix that. But we went and looked at our statistics, and apparently almost 50 of you had already heard it by like 7 a.m. in the morning.
Wow.
Which, at the time was not great because we didn't want anyone to hear this, but also we're very flattered that many of you listen right away when the episode drops.
Truly, so flattered. And thank you for everyone who messaged us to tell us, hey, I think there's something wrong with your episode.
There's something wrong. Quite a few of you did. We thank you for that. And we were struggling that morning, waking up out of bed, trying to fix it.
MVP goes to Casey, who did some major damage control until I finally woke up. And I was waking up uncharacteristically early to go to work. And so I'm super glad that you guys told us that Case did some damage control and we got it all working not even half an hour later. So woohoo!
Cass is usually you're the one that deals with all of the tech behind it, and so I was just clicking random buttons hoping for the best. I was clicking delete. I was like, oh no, I'm probably deleting really important things. But luckily I didn't delete the whole podcast. That would have been bad. So we're happy about that.
Absolutely.
So let's get to the
meat of things.
The meat of things. Today, as you heard, we are doing an episode. We both have older siblings who are not disabled, and we thought, hey, wouldn't it be great to talk about what it was like growing up with them, our dynamics, some good memories? Like, let's talk about it. So let's introduce them, shall we? I guess we'll do little introductions of our siblings. I have an older sister. She's 4 years older than me, so she is, let's do math, she's 32.
I love that you didn't know your sister's age.
I didn't know her age. No, I'm telling you, once she reached 30, I never knew it after that point. I don't know why. Okay, anyway.
No, that doesn't make you a bad sibling. I think after a certain point, everyone forgets how old their sibling is. After a certain age,
you're just like, oh my goodness. So my sister, her name is Lindley, and she has 2 kids, my nephews. I love them, and she's a teacher. And I guess I don't want to like say every single aspect of her entire life over here, but that's all you need to know right now. What about you?
Well, thanks for that intro. I have an older brother. He is 3.5 years older than me, so just about the same age gap. So that would make him 20. I see. My problem is that I always forget.
The birthday.
Well, like I always forget between which age, because I always know the age he's going to be next. But then anyway. So I think he's 27.
What year was he born?
1993.
Okay, so 27, unless his birthday's already happened this year.
No, it has not. So yes, we did math, you guys. So Carlos is 27. We don't live close to each other anymore. My brother actually lives in Arkansas with his lovely fiance. And yeah, we definitely got along pretty good. They don't have any kids or any dogs, but I like to pretend like I have their niece dog, Romana.
Yeah.
And
your dog is their niece.
I know. And so he works at a logistics company doing tech logistics things. And yeah.
Yeah, that's their intros.
Awesome. I wanted to throw in a science fun fact.
Science fun fact? Are you kidding? We need a jingle for our history and science fun facts that we need to like. I'm not kidding. Like okay, that's it.
Yep. All right. So our science fun fact is about genetics, right? So to oversimplify things, genetics works in a very simple way. Of course, the deeper you go into it, the more complicated it gets. But if you want to look up Punnett squares, however it's pronounced, it's a really simple way to figure out how genes are inherited. So for us, we each have Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome, which we've mentioned before, plenty of episodes on that. We each have a different subtype of Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome. Casey's got type 3, and I've got type 1.
Yep.
Our parents...
You're number 1.
Yeah. Thanks, girl.
You are number 1, girl.
So in order... assuming both parents carry the gene, which is the only way it would be passed on. So there is a 50% chance that any child born will not have whatever trait, say it's like brown eyes or like us, Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome. So they will not have it, but they will carry it. So then they will have the gene. There is a 25% chance that they won't carry the gene or have it at all. Mm-hmm. And then there's the last 25% is that they will pass on the gene. So with Casey and I, both of our parents had the gene, and we were the 25% that got the gene passed on. So it is more likely, like 75% more likely in this scenario, that any other child born is not going to have the same traits that we with Hermansky-Pudlak would have, but they may or may not carry the gene and be able to pass it along to their kids. So sounds pretty complicated, but if you look at a square, it's pretty easy. I'll link some things in the show notes.
Yeah, so none of our parents, meaning my parents and Cass's parents, none of them have Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome, but they do carry the gene. That's how we got it. Our siblings do not have Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome, but we don't know if they carry the gene or not. There are tests that can be done to see if they do, but I don't think either of them have ever done that. I know my sister hasn't. So we don't know if they carry it or not, but regardless, they don't have it. They are not disabled. I can't speak for Carlos, but I think they're both fairly healthy. My sister is in good health. So, and we've talked about how, and we'll get into this a little bit later, we've talked about how they both have incredible vision. They both have, very good 20/20
good eyes.
So they do. So we wanted to kind of dig into that. That's something that can be explored of like what's it like to grow up with an able-bodied older sibling, and what's it like for them to grow up with a disabled sibling. And there are dynamics to that, but a lot of our childhood was very normal, and that's kind of what we wanted to get into. We want to start off with childhood, and the first thing we want to get into is, did your sibling treat you differently because of your disability? And you can go first.
Sure. So I would say that on the whole, not really. From what I know and from what I've been told, so, okay, obviously, since we both have older siblings, we're both the youngest. We don't have any other siblings besides our older siblings. Mm-hmm. So being the youngest, we already were kind of afforded some privileges of being our parents' second child, but we also didn't get to see the dynamic of us with our siblings because we were babies. So
we're the babies of the family.
From what I've been told, I don't really think that Carlos questioned too much about me early on. So as a reminder, I'm Puerto Rican. Because of Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome, I don't have a lot of pigment in my skin, and therefore I don't actually look Hispanic, and I grew up in the United States in the mainland U.S., so I don't have any sort of accent or really much else that would, be like a physical trait that's stereotypically associated with Latinos. But even though my family was brown and I was white, I don't think my brother ever thought about it too much. I just think that he was happy to have a little sister to play pretend with. And there are a lot of family home videos of my brother was such an imaginative kid. So he gave everything a life and a sense of self. So he would play with his dinosaurs or his stuffed animals, and then he would come over to me lumping in the corner as babies do, and then just pretend I was part of his imaginary story. It's super cute.
He was so happy to have a playmate when you came along.
I know, right? I was always the monster or the damsel in distress or whatever in whatever story.
He's saving you.
I remember at some point, I don't even remember how old I was, but I remember this though, where we were playing, and I, was under his desk, and then he was like, okay, stay there. And then he, left, and then he, I guess forgot that I was there. So I waited for what felt like an eternity, and then I was like, all right, I'm going to do something else.
Typical older sibling right there.
Exactly. It's just I don't know.
We would do anything they said, I feel like. They'd be like, go get me a glass of water, and we'd go do
okay.
it, Yeah.
I know. So, I don't know. It felt very typical sibling stuff. What about you?
Oh, yeah. So my sister, I racked my brain to think of any time where it came up or she treated me differently. And really, I could not think of a time. I really couldn't. I could think of times where my parents would be like, Casey, there's a step, or accommodate things for me. But my sister just always treated me just like a sibling would, exactly the same, which I appreciate. And I think that's all she ever knew. I was born when she was only 4. She didn't know to treat me differently. She probably didn't even realize the severity of my visual impairment until we were probably much older. As kids, it's just not something you're aware of, I think. So we had a lot of fun growing up, and I really looked up to her, and all the music and movies and things that she liked, I liked, and I, wanted to like the Spice Girls and all the cool stuff she was into. And so, Did
you ever just try and insert yourself with your older siblings' friends?
Oh, absolutely.
That was so mean.
Every time my sister had friends over, she'd have her bedroom door closed, so I wouldn't be able to get in, and I'm out there knocking and crying, please let me in. And every once in a while, they would let me. And one of our favorite things to do with her friends was we would make up dances. And we would
that's so fun.
Pick a song, and we'd spend 30 minutes. We would do the first verse and do it over and over and practice it until we got it perfect. And that was fun. But a lot of the time, my mom would be like, Casey, leave them alone. Let them have their time. Go play something else, because I wanted so badly to be with the cool kids, the older kids.
I know. Well, and because my brother was a boy, I wanted to I was kind of a scrappy kid. I was really girly, but also really feisty, and I could, I was like a tree climbing kid. We've talked about this before. So I wanted to hang out with my brother's friends, and they were fun, they were boys, and like I just wanted to like play around with them, but they were like, no, go away. Like, I want girl here.
Like, go away. There were certain friends who like liked me more than other friends, though.
Yeah,
like certain friends of hers would be like, yeah, let Casey play with us.
That's cute. I think my favorite story of my brother noticing, or at least remarking on my difference, my brother was, like, I feel like as a kid, he was very, like, I don't know, just like honest. Like he just like said what he like wanted to say. So one time I have this memory of like running up to him like when we were both in elementary together, and he was like kind of embarrassed. Like I'm sure he was like in 4th grade or something, and he didn't want anything to do with me. But I don't even remember if this was at the same time, but like I don't know if, again, I don't recall the particulars of the story, but when describing me, we as a family would use a lot of terms like visually impaired and legally blind. Those were the terms that we just like used growing up. And my brother was like, well, she's not like blind. She's only a quarter blind.
I'm obsessed with that.
Which I love.
I love a quarter blind. I love it.
I think he was like learning about like ethnicity, when you can be like a quarter, whatever, but like whatever. I was a quarter blind.
That's so good. That is so good. So my next question is, did they ever accommodate you? Do you have any memories of your brother doing something to accommodate for you?
I mean, I think in part he was like so used to seeing me accommodate myself as a kid, like sitting like right up against the TV. I had my little blue plastic chair that we would have next to the TV, and I'd like scoot it up so we could see. Yes. And sometimes he would sit on the floor with me, which is really cute.
My sister did too. Yeah, I remember that.
And that was just like one more thing to make me feel like slightly more normal. It was so funny because I was visiting him very recently. And I pulled up a chair to sit closer to the screen, and he was like, wow, I'm getting all these flashbacks of our childhood.
Yeah, it doesn't change.
Yeah. But my brother's a very descriptive person by nature. I think, like, he takes in a lot of information at once, and I think, okay, we're getting back to this. I think it's because he has such good vision. His eyes are so good, and I think his brain processing all of this, like, visual information, he'll, like, just randomly start, like, getting distracted by what's around him and then kind of talking about it. He's like, oh, look at that funny sign. It says whatever. And I think he'll do that to almost everyone. I don't think it's just a me thing. So,
just for you. Yeah.
I don't know. But, yeah, of course. I mean, little bits, but of course he also just treated me like a sister.
Oh, yeah. Like, I kind of feel the same way. Like, I don't really have that many memories of my sister, like, accommodating for me, but that's not a negative thing. I think, like, if she had accommodated for me all the time, it would almost make it seem like not a super sisterly relationship. It might have almost seemed like, I don't know, like, what I mean by that, I think it's great if your siblings accommodate for you, but I guess what I mean by that is it was always very natural and normal, and it wasn't like she was always, like, thinking of my vision, and that wasn't her job. As a child, especially, it wasn't her job to, like, do all of that for me. Her job was to be my sister. But she did drive me around a lot, and she's always been, like, happy to do that. And I remember, I may have even, like, briefly told this on the pod before, so sorry, but I remember in college once, I was really hungry, and, like, no restaurants on the campus were open at that time, and that was before, like, Uber Eats and all these things you can, like, order, and I didn't really want pizza, and I remember just being, like, annoyed that I didn't have a car in that moment, and she drove, like, 30 minutes all the way out to my college to bring me some dinner she had made, and, like, so I think, like, she is definitely, like, helpful and accommodating, but not to the point where it's, like, all the time, accommodating for me.
Right. I feel like there is kind of a middle ground. You sort of expect your sibling to understand you and know your quirks, but they're not, that's not, like you said, that's not their role in your life, right?
Yeah, right. I do think she forgets that I can't see sometimes, which
totally.
A lot of my friends and family do. But yeah. And then the last one on this little section is, did they ever trick you? And I guess what we mean by that is, like, did they ever, like, know that you couldn't see something and like, mess with you because of that?
Yeah. My brother loved to jump scare me. He still does. I hate that so much. I hate that
I hate
so
it too.
much. But,
I hate that.
Like, sometimes they didn't even have to hide behind the door, which I feel like is how most people jump scare. Sometimes he could just literally be in the room and I wouldn't even notice that he was there, and then he would just jump scare me. Like, oh, man. But no, those drives, actually, you mentioning, like, driving around with your siblings or having them drive, like, when we were in high school together, and he would drive to school, those were some of, like, my favorite memories together, like, with him.
Oh, yes.
I feel like this wasn't directly messing with me, but it was really funny that as soon as he got his license, I was in, like, 8th grade, we went on, like, a random little trip to the grocery store, and he bought a bunch of random junk. And then he decided to go through a drive-thru, and we were sitting there for, like, 10 minutes until he realized that he hadn't ordered food, so we just backed up in the drive-thru. It was really fun. I don't know.
No, I love that. I kind of, like, I can't, like, I feel like with the jump scare thing, and even with the drive-thru thing, kind of all of that, those things probably would have happened even if you weren't visually impaired,
totally.
right? You know? So it's not really necessarily, like, tricking us because we can't see, but my sister would, like, we got to that age, you know, where, like, our parents could leave us alone, but, like, she was technically, like, babysitting me, you know, because I was younger. And I remember she would always, like, play pranks on me, like, and try to scare me, like, one time she, like, pretended there was an intruder in the house and made us hide. And she would, like, peek. Yeah, it was terrible in the moment. She would peek out from behind her desk and be like, I see him in the hallway, you know. And I bought it. Or she would, like, quote unquote, like, pass out and say, I see dead people from The Sixth Sense. And,
geez.
Do all this scary stuff to me because she knew it would get me. And it's, like, such an older sibling, like, thing to, like, mess with you. And
yeah.
And anyway, none of it was, like, because of my vision, but
no,
yeah.
I think it's just
she
older siblings. We would like physically fight a lot. Sometimes for fun.
Yeah, we would pull hair.
Yeah, sometimes for fun, sometimes because we were actually fighting. And, you know, I could compete up to a certain degree. I was pretty proud of that. But at a certain age, we were much too large for it to be safe or appropriate anymore, because it was just like, we are, like, I don't know, I was like 10, and we were like, yeah, I think this is probably the time that this should end.
Yep, pretty much.
But I still to tickle him because he's extremely ticklish, and I'll, like, walk over and I'll, like, poke his stomach and he'll, like shrink back. It's really funny.
Oh, she used to squeeze my cheeks when I was younger and come up and go, chubby cheeks, and squeeze them as hard as she could.
Oh,
like,
I did that too.
Like, because she thought I was cute, but it was, like, actually, like, annoying and hurtful at the time, like painful. I was like, stop squeezing at me and, like, hugging me and, like, being all over me.
Yeah, so we wanted to also, let's talk about how good they can truly see.
How good they can truly see. We call my sister, we say she has, like, a spidey sense, because if there's ever a spider in the room, it can be, like, 3 rooms away. She'll see that spider. Like,
whoa.
She sees everything. She sees things that I didn't even know. You know how, like, me and you, I feel like we can kind of, like, gauge what sighted people can see.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I'll be like, I can't see that, but I'm sure a sighted person can see it. With her, it's always, like, even more than I think a normal sighted person can see. I'm like, well, how are you seeing this? Like, it is wild. I know there have been certain examples of that I can't actually think of right now. But you say Carlos is the same way.
Yeah, well, and he gets so distracted by things that are happening in this, like, world of small-sighted people things. Like, just...
Yes.
It feels like a very small population that can actually appreciate these things, but maybe I'm just naive and can't see, so I assume that not that many people can. I don't know, but, like, he'll be standing by a window and he'll, like, lean over and be like, oh, look at that bird, it just grabbed a worm. Oh, look, now it's and I'm just like, what? I don't even see the bird, period.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah. Well, I feel like when you have great vision like that, you do get distracted more. Like, my sister, like, I'll be talking to her, and I see her head just completely turn as I'm speaking. And I think she's, like, looking at people. Like, I feel like her and my dad both get, like, distracted by, like, people watching, because I'm sure if you can see everything around you, it is pretty interesting to see, like, what people are doing behind you or whatever. But it's just, like, funny how
that reminds me
it's distracting.
Yeah, that reminds me of, I think I might have told this story on the pod before, but I'm not super sure. When I was in high school, we went to an amusement park, and it was just the two of us. But we sat around for a bit on just this concrete ledge, and he was people watching, but, like, out loud and also making up stories about the people. He was like, that couple's fighting. How dare you do that to me? You can't talk about my mom that way.
No, my family does that all the time. Or they'll see someone that looks familiar, and they'll joke like, I didn't know Bob was here at the restaurant tonight, even though, like, they know it's not him. And I always feel, like, sad that I can't people watch.
I feel kind of left out.
Because I think that would be so fun. We've never talked about that on the pod ever, the people watching thing, have we? How we can't do it. Maybe we have.
And we might have in our Dear Sighted People episode.
Maybe.
But regardless, it's still worth talking about again, because
it's worth talking about.
I love it when people do that with me, or they tell me, oh, that person over there is doing what I feel like included, because sometimes not being able to see can be a bit isolating. You don't actually know what's going on around you a lot of the time. Yes,
I completely agree. Absolutely. So we don't want to stay on this topic for too long, because we want this episode to be fun and happy, but we do just want to touch on the real reality that sometimes when there is a disabled sibling and an able-bodied sibling, that there could be maybe some guilt there, or maybe some jealousy there, or any kind of feelings like, you know, the disabled sibling might feel guilty for taking up more of the parent's attention, or the able-bodied sibling could feel some kind of jealousy or whatever. And Cass and I talked about this a little bit before the episode when we were planning, and we both said, you know, this has not been a big deal in our lives, and we're grateful for that. I've even had a conversation with my sister about it before, and we really think, you know, Cass and I were very blessed to have great parents who really gave both of their kids attention. And so I think for me personally, you know, there's always going to be a little bit of those feelings, but I think it's a real thing that happens, and that's why I wanted to at least acknowledge it, that it's a real thing with this dynamic between a disabled and non-disabled sibling sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And while I don't ever recall having asked my brother about it, I think that is real, and I don't know if I should speak for him, but I don't think that, you know, that was something that he experienced, or even if he did, like, he's kind of an introvert, and I think that he didn't mind having a little less attention, especially as he got older. So I think that, again, like you said, our parents did the best that they possibly could given the circumstances, and trying to still divide attention. Our parents were always at every soccer game, every cross-country meet for both of us. So, you know, they did everything that they possibly could to try and make us feel both loved, and I think that they did a really great job.
Definitely, and even though our siblings may have at some point in their life said, oh, our sibling is getting a little more attention because of their disability, it's not like they'd really want the disability anyway, honestly. I mean, like, I don't think my sister would have, like, been like, I wish I could be blind to get attention, because it's like, that's not super fun either. I mean, there are pros and cons, I guess, that come with both sides of that coin. But yeah, for sure. I mean, and we're very close with our siblings, and it didn't cause any kind of rift between us. So that's the good news.
Yeah. So to transition from this serious moment, we wanted to just kind of talk about all kinds of memories.
Yes.
You know, I think you mentioned earlier that you wanted to, like, listen to the Spice Girls like your sister. I feel like I I copied a lot of my music taste from my brother at the same time. I remember hearing bands like All Time Low when I was like 10, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. So the cool kids here.
Oh, no, totally. Like, you were talking about earlier how some of your favorite memories were being driven around by your brother. And I completely agree. My sister drove me to school in middle school. I hated middle school, for the record, but that was one of my favorite memories from it, is her driving me to school and listening to Blink-182 and Dashboard Confessional and all these bands. And that music still reminds me of those car rides to this day, as I'm sure it does for you too.
Oh, yeah. I am proud to say that my brother played soccer in high school, but I ran cross country, as I've mentioned on other podcast episodes. And his senior year of high school, and also the spring of, I guess, his junior year, he ran track, and then he finally joined the cross country team in the fall. And I was really happy because then we got to go to practice together. So we got to spend more time in the car. And so there were a lot of MGMT. We heard a lot of that in the car, a lot of the Killers. Like, it was really special, and, like, it still makes me...
It was always their music. It was always the music they wanted, though.
Oh, yeah.
It was always... They were the DJ.
Did I ever play... No, I never did.
No, we never played what we wanted, but the good thing is they had good taste, and they were teaching us their music. But no, it was never us being the DJ, just like how we were never Mario. We were Luigi when we had to play
every time
any kind of video game.
Every single
Player
time.
Player 2. Every time. But I have so many memories. Like, I have a little list here, I guess. I mean, do you have a list? Like, do you want to kind of go back and forth, just saying some different things? And
no, just go ahead. Like, we'll just...
Okay, yeah. I remember a lot of memories of us playing, like, Office and school together.
Cute.
My sister was really obsessed with Office. Like, all she wanted growing up was a cash register. Like, that was, like, her dream toy. And we would, like, line up our Beanie Babies and pretend like we were teaching them. And it's funny because she's a teacher now. But we would definitely, like, play that a lot together. And... we can go back and forth. I don't want to, like, talk forever, but I have a few other things.
Yeah. So I mentioned we would play pretend a lot. My brother went through lots of, so first of all, I will say the movies Toy Story were very impactful for my brother's life. Oh. Because like I said, he gave everything, like, a personality and a thing. So seeing Toy Story was like, oh my gosh, now I can play pretend because toys have lives. And so I remember doing that a lot with him. I always wanted to, like, I don't feel like I was as imaginative. I played dolls by myself a lot, and I always wanted to play birthday. That was my favorite thing, was to play birthday.
Yes, I loved dolls. I don't remember playing dolls as much with her. I do remember, kind of a little bit, but because I feel like maybe when I was playing with dolls, she thought she was a little past that.
Well,
maybe,
yeah, I didn't do it with him, but I wanted to kind of...
But I loved
carry that sense of imagination. I just feel like his was so, like, big and developed, and mine was just, like, it was like a standard imagination.
Yes. Like, more like car things I can think of. For a while there, every Christmas we would drive to McDonald's and get one of those apple pies and go look at Christmas lights together. So that was fun. And I also have a lot of memories of being both in the back seat during car road trips and having our Discmans, and every time the car would bump, our music would skip. Like, this is how it was, kids. Back when you had to listen to a Discman, and we had, like, our big CD case with, like, Britney Spears and NSYNC and everybody in there, and we would just, like, play games and stuff like that in the car, and so that was always, like, travel memories were fun.
Yeah, we took some road trips growing up. I talked about this in our travel episode. I feel like we've gotten a really good opportunity to plug a lot of our episodes tonight.
Yeah, we have. Good luck on the show notes.
Oh, it's okay. But I think, for us, we got this, like, chunky DVD player. Speaking of CD players, my mom was cleaning recently, and she ended up finding it, and she showed it to me, and I was like, whoa, so many memories. But there was always, just like we were Player 2, there was, like, the DVD player that was, like, the controller, and then it came with an additional little screen that you could hold up to you.
Oh.
So I always got the little screen, but I always wanted the one with more control because I felt fancier, but I never got it because I was always the little one. No, of course not.
No, always the younger one, always the baby. No, that's literally how it is. I remember when we would like get in trouble and get sent to our rooms, my sister's room wall was connected to the bathroom wall. It was like the same wall. So my sister would go to her room and I would, instead of going to my room, I would go in the bathroom and we would like talk through the wall and like thought we were like being so cool that like our parents put us in timeout, but we were still able to like chat and hang out. Do you have memories of like getting in trouble together at all?
Definitely. Yeah. Sometimes it was both of us and sometimes it was one or the other, but I remember, like, sliding notes under his door, like, across the hall.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, sometimes I would, like, later on when he was older, I would try and, like, listen in at the door on his phone conversations.
Yes, I did that, too. Oh, my gosh, I did. Yes, and we've talked about before, like, and we won't stay too long on this because we talked about it in our Christmas special. Gosh, I'm sorry, Cassandra. I'm talking about every episode. But in our Christmas special, we talked about how fun we would sleep in the same room as our siblings on Christmas Eve.
That was so fun and so special.
And my sister and I would get snack plates. Like, we would get a plate and just put some different, like, cheese on it and stuff and bring it, like, to our room. And, like, we never did that together except on Christmas Eve.
Yeah. We did that for some years. And then I think after, when we hit, like, maybe high school, he was like, no, sleep in your room. And I was like, okay. Yeah. But he had a bunk bed, so I thought it was so cool. College.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely. And I feel like we can also talk about, like, we don't have to leave childhood behind, but also, like, we can talk about memories more recent because I think definitely one of my favorites, of course, her wedding was really, really great. And I'm excited for you to experience your brother's wedding coming up.
I'm so excited.
But I was in the room up close and personal for both of my nephews' births. And that was just really cool because not every aunt gets to do that. Like, a lot of times they're in the waiting room or at home or wherever, and like that was just so cool that I got to be in the room and a lot of people, when I tell them that, they're like, ew, gross, I wouldn't want to be in the room. And I'm like, screw you. It was like, oh, sorry, is that this is a family friendly podcast? But I'm like, it was like the best moment of my life, so you can go away. But no, I'm kidding. I like, you know, to each his own. Some people might find it like TMI. I thought it was a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, and it was really beautiful, and I love my nephews, like, with all of my heart.
They're such cuties, too.
Do you have any, like, a more adult, like, older memories instead of, like...
well, so it was really fun getting to go to his master's graduation a couple years ago.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, that was really fun and special, and that was one of the few times that I've been in Arkansas. Actually, recently, I because I went and visited them, it was a lot of fun. We just had so much of a great time. Actually, so I haven't ever said this on the pod, but I actually bought a house earlier this year, and I was super happy about it. So Case and I are in the condo club.
Condo clubs, yep.
But my brother is actually looking to buy a house now, too. And they put in an offer already, and I was so happy to be part of their home search when I was visiting them.
Fun.
So that was something cool that I feel like lately has been special, that we've gotten to sort of share that home buying process together this year.
Yeah, that's so special.
I know, I'm really excited
I've got to ask this, because it just came to my mind. This is kind of unrelated. When Carlos went to college, were you, like, devastated?
I was absolutely devastated.
I was devastated.
I was, like, sobbing constantly because I would want to, like, walk over to his room and bug him, but he wasn't there.
It's so sad. It's so sad. I made my sister, like, a slideshow of, like, memories of us, like, as if she was, like, dying. And, like, so I remember that night, like, the night she left for college, I spent the night at one of my best friend's house to, like, get my mind off of it because I was so upset. And I remember being there and I was like, she always drove me home from church and she always did this and it's not going to be. But I do feel like we almost got closer after that. I feel like the older we get, you know, the more, you know, the less you feel like the age gap is like a big deal. But I had like, one of my friends who had an older sister than my older sister who had already gone to college was like, you'll become phone sisters, like you'll be best friends on the phone, like, and that was true. Like we really did keep up over the phone, and like it wasn't as bad as I thought. But I'm so glad to know that you were also like devastated.
I was so sad. Like, so honestly, like I'll still hear some songs from like the year that he graduated high school, and it like chokes me up just a little bit because I'm like, oh, I remember like. Because that was sort of the end of our childhood together.
I know, no, literally. I mean, like, for real.
So, like, it was still, like a good and special memory. And because he lives out of state, like, I don't get to see him that often anymore. But it was cool because we did go to the same school for undergrad. So we still got to annoy each other just a little bit more, but in a different way. I think one of the funniest things that, I don't know, there were some good college memories that we had together, and we had our own friends and everything, but there were a couple of times that, you know, we'd hang out occasionally. And when I was a freshman and I had the dining plan on campus, my brother would borrow my student ID and like swipe in and get like free food because I didn't ever use the dining plan to its full capacity. So honestly, I was like, well, help me get my money's worth. But girl, there was one weekend though that I went to like a church retreat, and suddenly I realized that my brother used all of my food points that week. No.
Wait, so you overlapped when you were a freshman and he was a senior, right?
Yeah, so he even took like an additional semester.
Okay.
And so it was like a year and a half that we were at school together. But
that's so funny.
Hilarious.
Yeah, well, my sister went to a different college than me entirely, and when I was a freshman, she had already graduated college, but I've never told you this. She went to grad school at my school while I was there.
Cool.
I never saw her face. I think maybe one time, literally ever, I think I saw her. Like, it was only like
grad school's kind of different,
like a year or two. But yeah, it was different. Yeah, grad school is different. And, but I thought that was funny that we were in school together kind of at the same time for like a hot second.
Yeah, speaking of food, when I lived then in the sorority house, we would be able to like have plates of the leftovers. And I remember one time I just like filled a box of like just turkey, and I just gave him this like box of turkey, and this is when we used to Snapchat, you guys. He Snapchatted me a picture that said sorority turkey.
Oh, that's good. That is good. So many good memories.
We had lots of fun though.
We honestly could go on and on, but if you're ready,
we have
to our game. And this is a fun one. We decided, so like Cass, I've met Carlos and Cass has met Lindley, but only like very briefly, so we don't really know each other's siblings very well.
You guys, it was at conference. You should listen to our conference.
Are you serious right now? Are you about to have to do another?
Yeah.
I'm talking to future Cass writing the show notes right now. If you're listening, Cass, I'm sorry for all these links. You're going to have to leave. But yeah, go look at the show notes if you want to check out any of these old episodes that we keep incessantly referencing. So for the game today, we're going to like say a scenario and say who would be most likely to. But instead of doing it between Cass and I'm going to say between my sister Lindley and I, and you're going to say between Carlos and yourself of who's more likely to do the thing.
Okay.
I'll read the first one. Out of you and your bro, who is more likely to move to another country?
Hands down, Carlos. Carlos has traveled extensively. He has, like, backpacked throughout India. Like, he's very, very well traveled. He did this, like, I love telling people about this because I feel like it's every other, like, millennial's dream. But he, like, just packed up his car after undergrad, and he just did this really long road trip throughout the U.S. It was like probably 5 months. It was a really long time.
Wow, that's cool. That is a millennial dream for a lot of people. I love that. I think it would be me. And not because I want to move to another country, but I think I've moved a plane flight away, and my sister never has done that. And also, like, she has a family to take care of. It's not like she could just, like, up and move. But, yeah, I mean, I don't have any plans to do so. But, yeah, it would be me, probably.
Yeah. Okay, so who would be, I feel like, given my stories, I think everyone is going to know the answer to this one, but who would be the person to take the last bit of, like, food left on a plate?
If it's dessert, 100% me. Like, it's a joke in my family that I get anxious with desserts, especially if I'm sharing with someone that, like, I'm not going to get, like, my share of the dessert. Like, it's like a joke that if I order something and someone tries to share with me, if it's dessert, I'm not going to share. Like, you get your own because I want my dessert. I have a sugar problem, trust me. But, so maybe me. Like, if it's actual food, I don't really know. None of us are super like that with, like, food. But if it's dessert, like, I will be licking the plate for dessert.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think Carlos would definitely take the last bit of something. Not because he's, like, a terrible person, but because, one, he's an older brother, and two, he likes food. So.
Yes, of course. Okay, next. Who's more likely to lie to your parents?
Ooh. Huh. I'm going to go with Carlos again. Because I feel like if I said me, it would make me look bad. But I think it's the actual truth.
It would in my case, it would definitely be Lindley, like, for sure. Not like now, but when we were growing up, she would just, like, make up, like, extravagant stories. Like, she told one of her teachers that she had an older brother because she thought it was cool.
What?
And then, like, when a parent-teacher conference happened, the teacher said, and your older son, and my parents were like, we don't have a son.
Oh,
like, we don't have an older son. Like, she, like, told little stories as a kid and little lies, and I never was like that, so it's her.
Yeah, I feel like maybe more now than in the past. I think maybe in the past it would have been me.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, who's more likely to splurge for something nice?
I think her. We always have kind of joked growing up that she kind of has, like, fancy taste. Like, like, even if she sees two purses and she doesn't even know which one is more expensive, it's, like, always the one she wants is, like, the more expensive one. It's like, okay, so maybe her. I mean, she's not, you know, she has kids now and she, like, obviously would rather buy them nice things. She's not super, like, you know, materialistic and always buying herself, like, all this stuff. But I still think her taste is, like, fancier than my taste.
Yeah. I would definitely say me, not because I'm materialistic, but because my brother is extremely frugal.
And he's kind of, isn't he more, like, minimalist?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I'd say even minimalist, but he's very, like, conscious about waste, and he's trying to be more and more sustainable and, like, living in a way that is, you know, good for the planet and also then for his wallet.
Yeah, that's why I asked, because I remember you saying he was, you know, into sustainability and everything, which is awesome. Who is more likely to own more animals or pets?
So this is a really hard one because my brother, okay, so I'm the one who has a dog. My brother and his fiance, they don't have any pets. Also, Carlos is, like, allergic to every other animal, which I think is kind of funny. But growing up, like, he was such an animal kid. Like, he watched, like, tons of Animal Planet. He knew so much about all kinds of animals and reptiles, and I think for a while he wanted to be, like, a marine biologist. So I feel like him, because he's more of an animal person, but he's also, like, allergic to literally everything. So
that's funny. I wouldn't necessarily call myself, like, an animal person, but I am a dog person, like, through and through and through. And my sister is not. They have a dog. His name's Maddox. He's lovely. But they only have him because her husband really wanted him. And if she were single, he didn't, like, force her to get him, but if she were single, she would not have a dog. And she always says this is her last dog, like, all the time. Like, she's not really a dog. Like, she loves him, but she's not a dog person. Whereas I, like, my dog is my everything. Like, if he were to die, I'd probably get another one immediately. Like, I always want to have a dog in my life. So it's me. That was a long-winded way of saying it's me.
Nah, girl, that's cool. All right. So, who's more likely to go to bed early?
This one was hard for me to answer. it used to be her, because I used to be the person who was literally up until the sunrise. I would see the sunrise, like 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and now I go to bed early. And when I say early, it's 11:30, which is still not early for some people. But, like, I get in bed at, like, 10, 9:30 or 10.
Wow.
And, like, watch TV. I know. It's wild. So it's kind of both of us, because she has to get up for school to teach really, really early. So, like, she has to go to bed early or she'll, like, not make it through the day. So I think both of us.
Yeah.
What about you?
Definitely me. Well, wait, no, hold on. Definitely me would be the one to sleep in.
I was about to say.
Hang on.
What? Go to sleep early would be him, right?
Yeah. So I was always the one to sleep in, even, like, growing up. I was always asleep. And it was, like, a running joke that, especially on when we would have, when we were, like, kids and we would have snow days at school because Ohio, I would sleep in, and then he would come and try and wake me up with the song from Snow White, Hi Ho. And he would bug me, and I would try and throw pillows at him, but he was so fast that he would, like, run out of the room. And I was so annoyed because I was just like, stop waking me up.
Oh, I love that memory, though. That's another fun memory. Okay, who's more likely to cry at, like, any kind of family function, a wedding, a funeral, even Christmas, like, who's more likely to cry?
I honestly don't know. I really don't know. I think, like, he's more, like, sensitive and in tune with his emotions than I am. I'm not, like, cold and unfeeling. But I think it takes a good bit for me to cry at something. But there are, like, certain things that'll make me cry, especially, like, I think we've mentioned this before, but, like, animated movies, man, they get me. So I'm definitely going to cry during the animated movie.
Yeah. This one was easy for me. It's me. No shock there. I'm really emotional, and she's not that emotional at all. And then I'm, like, really emotional. So it's definitely me. Definitely.
That's awesome. Okay, so who's more likely to start a business?
It really could be either of us, but I think me, and mainly because I'm single and I have a lot of time on my hands to do anything like that. But I don't know. I feel like even if I were married with kids just like her, it might still be me. I don't really know why. I don't want to say that in, like, a way of, like, it would be me, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe me. Maybe her. She could do it if she found some kind of thing she wanted to make a business about.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think it would be him. He's very, like, driven, and he loves constantly doing things, having new projects going on. But I feel like either of us could do it, honestly.
That's kind of how I feel.
I think I could do it, too. I just feel like he would want to do it first.
Yeah. Yes, typical older sibling.
Right.
Who is more likely to survive a zombie apocalypse?
So I'm going to say him because he has better eyes.
That's a good point.
And he's, like, pretty strategic. However, I think I could do fairly well if I had the right tools at my disposal. I said this on a previous pod. I think it was our personalities pod where we did, like, a who would survive the zombie apocalypse between me and Case. So, you know, if I had, like, a machete, I think I'd be okay.
Yeah. It's really hard. Neither of us really. I mean, she can see better than me, but I think, like, in general, I have way more anxiety than her, but she also gets, like, really, with that kind of stuff, gets really scared easily. With anything like that, I mean, anyone would be scared of a zombie apocalypse, but I could just see her being like, I'm out, you know, like, I can't do this. And so I don't know. That's so hard to say.
Yeah.
So hard to say. Maybe me, honest. I can see myself almost, like, going to fight the zombies before she would. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or you guys could find shelter together and just hang out.
We'd probably just hide, honestly.
That's a good way to survive, not get found.
Yeah.
Okay, so last one is, who is more likely to be the most outgoing?
again, kind of a hard one. You know, I've been on the stage my whole life doing theater, and she is terrified to, like, even get in front of a crowd to make a speech. She doesn't even like people singing happy birthday to her, or, like, all the attention
okay,
on
but
her.
who likes that? Who likes that? That is such an uncomfortable situation to be in.
She was scared to do her first dance at her wedding because people were watching her dance.
Aww.
Like, she doesn't like any of that. But she's very extroverted. She wants to be around people all the time. I'm very introverted. I love being alone. She hates being alone. And I think, like, in college and even, well, yeah, I guess, like, more in college, she was probably around people just 24/7, like, never had to be alone much. And so I would say she's more outgoing. I would say she probably went out a lot more than I did. In college, I was, like, in my room, like, most of the time. Like, I mean, I had fun, but I'm so introverted. I can't deal with, like, all of that stimuli, you know.
That's funny. I feel like with us, it's sort of hard to say, too, because I think as a kid, definitely me. I would have been most outgoing. But now, I don't know, because Carlos is an introvert, and he still is, but he's super social. He's got all kinds of friends.
That's the thing. I'm social too. Like, I say that I'm an introvert, but I can make friends easily and talk to people easily. So
my brother is like low-key kind of hyper. Like, he's always doing stuff, and he moves super quickly from one task to another. So he's always, like, planning things with friends. He's like, I'm going to call up so-and-so and see if they want to do this thing. And it's just like, wow, like, you know,
But you're outgoing, too.
I'm an extrovert. Yeah. And growing up, like, I was always the person to, like, walk up to someone and say hi. Like, I was just very, like, super outgoing and social. But I do love my alone time. And so I don't know, but I do love seeing friends. So it's hard to say. I feel like it depends the situation.
Yeah, no, that's so true. It really depends on the situation. And that it's like really a layered question to ask when you think about it, actually.
I know, right? So many factors, but that was our game, you guys.
That was our game. That was our episode. I had so much fun going down memory lane with you, and like it's really cool. We have a lot in common with having an older sibling, you know.
Right, and even though you have a sister and brother, we did sort of different things that, like, with your sister and me with my brother, it was still like a similar fun and special relationship that we still enjoy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we still enjoy it to this day. Shout out to them if they're still listening to this pod. Shout out. But anyway, thanks you all for listening, everyone. We hope you have a fantastic time, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Bye.